There is no video associated with this. It's just another one of my vlogs. Hello and welcome to another Science Me video. There's a problem with a lot of different time machines. They expect to be able to bend time and stay in place and then just move through time. The moment you try to move backwards, you move in on yourself. You try to exist where you have already existed. You implode. Or you bounce off of yourself and you never actually move backwards. The machine breaks down, or whatever else, because it's not possible to simply transcend your own existence and then go through time. So then, unlike the idea of many time machines, it's not possible. I don't care if you can make something that can bend space-time itself around your ship, you're still going forward and backward, physically existing through space. So you are not able to go backwards in time in such a device. The only way to go backwards in time is to go forwards in space while going backwards in time. So how does that work? The geometry of it usually breaks my head a little bit, but the general idea is that once you have traveled through a time rift, you have always been traveling through a time rift. It is not something that you can just do. You're going to end up immediately, just the same as moving forward or backwards in time. Even with a time rift, you're going to exist from one moment to the next inside the rift. And as you move through time, the assumption is that you could possibly bump into yourself anyway and still end up exploding. This is a very common, understood phenomenon with time machines. So is there a way to do it? The obvious way is to get out of phase. If you could escape the natural confines, turn into a ghost, basically, then you won't bump into your own matter and you won't explode, chances are. The other idea is to have time warp around the area of travel so that the area of travel doesn't actually go through natural space, but instead time warps around the ship. So you're not moving through time. It's as if you are making like a it's like you're making a bubble around the ship. That bubble then goes into it has its own time variant. this still doesn't work. Um, the bubble variant is no different than the ship variant. It's the entire object. It's still moving through time. It it just doesn't work that way. I think I've talked about this in the past that if you had a tunnel, for example, of bent space-time, such that you were able to go backwards in time, and if it could cycle on itself, such a time loop would, one, you can only traverse it one time, if at all, because the moment that you try using it again, you're going to experience yourself throughout all of the time that you've traveled through it. So the only other time you can use it is in an entire other time period. So from its conception, there is only so much time. So from the beginning of the machine being made to the time you attempt to transport from, that is the duration you have. And of course, how long ever into the future you want. There's of course problems with this. There's a beauty of linear time. There's an idea of a time synchronized portal. It's a type of wormhole that only is completely connected to every moment in time up to a certain duration. Kate and Leopold, I think, went through one of those, where it only works at this point in time now, connected to this point in time in the past, with variants of like the exact duration between the portals is not changing. So, for example, you can't end up going through it again and ending up in the past and then also go back to the future and not also end up in the same past. You would end up in the past that's relative to when you left, or the past that is relative to the timestamp connecting. Like every time that you move forward, like if you move forward a day, it'll be another day forward in the past as well, type of phenomenon. These type of time portals are no different in the fact that they are just physical planes that, as you're moving forward through them, if you travel through it more than, again, if you travel into the past, you will experience the problem is you're almost always guaranteed to experience your own matter stream. Signals, however, don't have this problem. So if you use a kind of transporter or specifically a wormhole inside of a time distortion, there's the chance that if you use like a specific, like being pulled through a straw, kind of, It's not the best idea. Unless, of course, you can survive being pulled through a straw somehow. Wormholes are weird like that. So, of course, is there any way to actually create a realistic time um, manipulation? And the answer, unfortunately, with my understanding, is that one, time does space-time doesn't curve. That is a myth perpetuated by a misunderstanding of time dilation, which is a false understanding of how clocks work in space at relativistic speeds, or anywhere at relativistic speeds. The whole thing about how light also transmitting and then the device that it's reflecting inside of is changing speeds is going to change the tick of the clock. It's like changing the length of the pendulum, only it's light based. And people gloss over that, except for the real scientists who talk to Kyle Hill a lot about it, and he ignores them because he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. You don't understand. Time dilation is a complete misunderstanding. Not a deliberate lie, but something that just hasn't been fully properly understood. Because the problem is also there's a lot of things like the whole fact that they don't understand the electromagnetic field and how that's separate from electrons, so that the doubles experiment is. But I've talked about that enough. But I've also talked about time dilation enough. So I'm talking about time. Houston, we have a problem. I don't have a solution for time travel, which means there is no solution for time travel. The Avengers are, let's just say, fiction. Okay? There's a serious problem with all those other time stuff. It's not just the causality function. It's also how do you even mess with time? And the leading thought is some kind of space-time curvature on itself distortions. So there aren't any. Look, it would be great to have a way to transport yourself through time. I wrote about it when I was 8 years old. I made a machine which was in my story that the guy made a machine where you were going first you go to the sun. You get enough power from there. Okay, first you go into an orbit around the planet. Then you go into a sun and make a Dyson swarm type of thing. Temporary enough that it's enough to make enough power to power what was essentially a kind of odd transportation unit. We're not going to call it a portal or a teleporter, and I don't care. The point is, in the story, you end up going out to the next star. You then teleport to the next part of the galaxy. You gain enough power by Dyson sphering because you've multiplied yourself enough with time distortion and teleportation of a different sort than the type I'm bothered about. And we conquered the whole universe in 2 years. We ended up making a machine that was supposed to be the size of 2/3 the size of the universe and powered by 4 red giant galaxies. The reason I chose red giant stars is because they are the most stable, they live the longest, and they're also the easiest to gain power from without frying your systems. White dwarfs, white stars, blue stars, um, all sorts of dwarf stars and whatever else. They just didn't give enough bang for your buck, and they weren't stable enough. Red giant stars were the most stable, longest life. So I was like, yeah, we'll make 4 galaxies full of those. We'll take that power. We'll use it to make, along with the rest of the power from the universe, we siphoned energy towards some distant area outside of our local area. So far away that our we could no we could there's no way we could affect Earth is the hope. And so we made a thing that was literally 2/3 the size of the observable universe. Now, that's not a Dyson sphere. A Dyson sphere is a tiny little bubble. Like you think of a Borg cube or Borg sphere, it's tiny compared to a Dyson sphere. And a Dyson sphere is a goddamn freaking bubble compared to what I made. I don't know what kind of grain of sand you're talking about. A Dyson sphere is like a quark compared to the behemoth I created. There's a reason for that. You need a lot of space to mess with so that you can structurally composite exactly any type of space-time distortion twists and turns that you could ever want. And it just occurred to me that you can only go far back as the machine was made. So it was made in 2020 something. That's not much. So from that point on, we have time distortion. You have infinite power in that thing because all of the time that you have been generating power for the assumed tens of billions of years that those stars can exist, you're able to transfer that power directly to the initiation of the device. Time distortions are no joke. It's not something that you can just simply do. It's not like magic or whatever. We used physics back in the day. And I hear some of you saying, if you have time distortion, why don't you just take the exploding the stars and just explode them one after another and gain the intense, extreme amount of power from them. I don't have the physics to do that. Even with my brain, I'm a Generation 1 Univarion. I am not freaking a TARDIS, okay? An exploding star has the power of its basic entire lifetime shot off all at once. And if you had the ability to gain the power of that using time dilation stuff, yeah, of course you can do it, especially with dimensional folding. We don't have dimensional folding like that. We have conventional dimensional folding of actual space-time. If space-time bends, which it doesn't, you can see that my problem here. I mean, you build the damn thing, and then you find out that when you travel through it, time hasn't changed. According to everyone, you just traveled through empty space because there is no flow change in time. The book ends. My reality in the book was we were able to make infinite power. We have these tiny little devices called the size of a pearl called an icon. It's basically like a Green Lantern's ring. The only difference is you don't have to power it. It's constantly powered. You can just siphon, you can call upon any amount of power that you can conceive. It's time distorted. You don't need to worry about how much. It could literally be the amount of power of an entire star exploding or hundreds of trillions of stars exploding. And it wouldn't make any difference because it can all be time distorted through the portal and arrive all at once. That kind of power is freaky. It was a beautiful time. I can't find myself to write the book because I can't make it work. It doesn't work. So I'm stuck. The Univarion is my DeviantArt handle. You can go check it out. It's pretty cool. But also, um, Nanomimetic Chrono Shifter is my t- Tumblr handle. And this was back in the day when we believed time was able to be manipulated by just bending time. It was great time, but we have moved past that. We've been away from that entire era for a decade now. It doesn't exist for me. For all of you, it does. For all of you, it's possible because you're naive. Some of you aren't. But time does not bend. It doesn't work that way. So what you have to understand is that there is, okay, Okay, unfortunately, technically, bending space-time will not ever happen in anyone's existence. So, if you ever see news about bending of space-time, it is a goddamn hoax. They have not done it. What they have done is maybe they've warped some magnetic field or whatever else, and they miscalibrated a clock or something. They're fooling you. Okay? But then there was, of course, the idea that I had at some point where you could send signals. That involved quantum entanglement, which is where it doesn't matter where it is. You could just have two particles interact with each other, no matter what distance. And because of time distortion, no matter what time. That technology is also complete hoax. It won't work. So anyone saying they sent a signal to the past basically set up the signal that they were going to receive. You might end up finding the transmitter somewhere nearby. Or it's just stored in their computer, and then whatever it ends up being, that's what they end up saying they sent. And you'll be fooled. It won't work. It's fake. Because you can only because of the idea of it being bent space-time or anything about working with black holes, anything working with um, gravity or inertia. You're not going to be messing with space-time by going faster. No matter how fast you go, you are not messing with space-time at all. There's this whole idea of the time light cone that only refers to what a person's capable of influencing and what can influence them, but that is a convention of the ideas based on the just a general thought of, well, if you shine a light in some direction, it will only end up being there because at that point you shot it, and at this point that's where it ends up there. So if it takes like 5 seconds to get somewhere, if it takes like 8 minutes like it does from the sun to the earth, that's the area you're able to affect. So light, light cones and all of that is just a concept based off of the general idea of how fast stuff can go, based off of photons and the fact that most matter doesn't hold together when you try to go that speed by accelerating something with an external accelerator. Imagine if you actually had a rocket on something and tried to move the thing forward, not just push it from the outside. And you have to ask yourself, is there any difference between pushing it with a rocket and using electromagnetic fields to push it? I'm not sure. We got up to Mach 15 already. from what I've heard. Supersonic ballistic missiles or some bullshit. So apparently stuff can hold together at extreme speeds, but it ain't great. Once you get up to certain speeds, you get higher gravity. Who cares? The point is, blah 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 blah. That none of that is going to make time machine nonsense. Okay, listen. The reason why in the movie Time Machine or Back to the Future Time Machine, goddamn. The reason why in Back to the Future they went to 88 miles an hour was not because that's how fast you need to go through time. That's how fast you need to go to light up all of the lights on the display. That's all it was. But the general idea was that flux capacitor, for whatever reason, able to make some kind of energy distortion around the ship so that basically you would leave normal space-time and you would enter again at the other point in space-time. And that's crazy and stuff. And it's a completely different thing than a wormhole, except for not. It has to be addressed that Back to the Future was an idea where you simply stopped existing, whatever time you existed in, and you started existing in some other time. So for everything else, there wasn't a you. It's like a rift was made. You exit normal space-time, enter the rift, exit in the past or the future. Even 1 minute. The first transport through time in that movie was just 1 minute into the future. Or 90 seconds. I don't remember. I think it was 1 minute. Yeah. Compared to the clocks, it was 1 minute. So the idea is they made a rift. They automatically made a jump point. And somehow they were able to directly link to another point in time and end up there. So literally for all of that time that they attempted moving backwards or forwards in time, it did not exist until it came back. Right? That minute was entirely ignored. So for us, 1 minute passed, for it, not passed. Instantaneous. That had nothing to do with the bending of space-time. It was an interesting idea that involves special energy manipulations. I know that I've heard an engineer say a flux capacitor is like a double entendre or something. What is the word? Misnomer? It's a word that's like capacitor or something. There's a whole thing, there's an entire thing about how, yeah, if you stop existing and then suddenly start existing in whatever other time, then at that point it's more like going through a window where you make the portal and you walk through it. That's the only way time travel really could work if you could get it to work. It's the only way that doesn't create some kind of time problem, matter problem. You have to stop existing, essentially enter into, even if you enter into another existence, like the best way to do it is to just cut open some kind of hole in space, like the jumper. Although, no, the jumper is not a good example because they're still moving through space. They're not even, like, their warp tunnels in the movie Jumper is like, they literally have a wire connected to them, and that wire goes through the wall. So they're still moving through space. They're still warping reality around them. So if you warp in and out of a containment vessel, like a submarine, you're going to end up breaking a hole through the hull of the submarine or any pressure vessel or like whatever. That kind of teleportation is still preferable to demolecularization. But still, you're going through space rapidly and stuff. It's interesting that Jumper is connected to Assassin's Creed, essentially. That was fascinating. Didn't even understand any of that. But it's like the Templars and all of that, with the extra powerful beings being like hunted, managed, maintained, controlled. It was nutty. Anyway, so again, the time machine and a rift through time, a proper rip in time, might work. So what about a signal? Well, the problem is there isn't an actual like mechanism to cause the rift. Like, again, even if you had some emitter that could send a signal that would last, and then you'd be able to transport information to and from that time period, the earliest you can do is the beginning and end of that continuous signal. If you disturb that signal whatsoever, you're going to end up with no ability to transport yourself through that time period. So you need another signal in order to go further back. And the other thing is like, it's just really hard working with time. Like, it'd be great if there was some other way of doing it, but the only other way of doing it is to change the chrono constant of the universe. you know, like bending space-time, but not. It's not so much bending space-time as it's somehow like there's an idea in causality that you could that some, not all, some are just as much fluid forward or backward through time, reaction wise. That they're almost symmetrical, they're almost identical, and there's no real difference between them. But of course, the answer is that you cannot actually transform a chemical reaction so that it's able to then transmit itself backward in time. So that, for example, photosynthesis reverses and you end up with carbon dioxide being spread out instead of oxygen. Like you can develop the factory that can do that process, but what I'm saying is you can't make a chemical reaction thing that would essentially reverse time. What you would be doing is making a just inverted case of the process. It's still moving forward in time, it's just making the opposite of what normal plants do happen. In other words, you're being a human, or a mammal, or some kind of animal, instead of a plant. No time manipulation there, right? That'd be an interesting theory if people are just time manipulated plants. First of all, it's stupid because we're not emitting rays of sunshine. We're emitting infrared light, but not sunshine. Even plants can emit infrared light. I'm going to stick with yes on that one. So, again, unfortunately, there is no answer for is there a way to transform yourself through time? Without obviously using magic. I mean, magic is just, oh, it's so perfect. Magic is the thing that could definitely manipulate space-time correctly without paradoxes, without doing whatever other nonsense. And all it would take is have a connection piece that's like, okay, well, we write the symbol on the ground now. We write it on the ground again in 100 years, and we'll be able to go back 100 years. And it doesn't matter if someone erases it, we'll be able to go back to the moment that it was completed, which is now. No one has showed up, so I guess it doesn't work. But I mean, if you're gonna mess with time, you might as well use magic. Which is unfortunate because even if magic did exist, which I'm not actually in favor of magic existing, although superstition exists and that's a type of magic that's different. Um, that's what we call meta magic. Real meta magic is weird because superstitions do exist, right? So there is some kind of spirituality out there. It's just the problem is None of them have any power of time, so that's kind of sucky. They're not really powerful. Like Mothman, oh, he can maybe see things into the future or whatever else. But no, none of that exists, unfortunately. You know, there was never a point of mentioning the future stuff happening because it doesn't matter. It's just going to happen. You're not going to change it, right? The whole. It was a weird movie. Technically, Scrooge was a time machine idea, but it wasn't a time machine idea. It was like looking in your own memories, but then you went into the future. So I guess it was time machine idea with spirit magic or whatever, if you want to write it that way. I more think of it as it actually was a dream and a delusion and a weird thing where it's like, holy crap, what if? Because you get all these thoughts of you know about these people and it hit your heart just the right way one day and it was like, you know what? I fucked up with my life. The only time it was good when it was good with my sister, and my sister has this darling boy who genuinely wants me around. I'm gonna be kind to him. And that dude that works for me talks about his son. What the fuck am I doing with my life? I don't want him to die. How could I ever think about my own well-being when I could die? He shouldn't die. He has so much time. Time. You see, we're not going to make a time machine by bending space-time. I'm not saying that you can't move through space-time. I'm just saying that bending space-time is not how it happens. There's another way possible, but it's not the bending of space-time. Gravity is not going to do it. Acceleration's not going to do it. So you got to ask yourself, do I have a way? God, if I did. There's, of course, the idea of the psychic connection, the ability of the um, guy that's in the Butterfly Effect movie, is that he's able to psychically connect himself to his younger self. so that he could manipulate stuff and change things. And unfortunately, he just keeps on making choices that he's not well understanding what the hell he's thinking. So he gets obsessed with everything that's happening. And I'm sorry, if you have that ability, the first lesson you have to learn is one, everything. Why the hell would you not just learn everything? And two, cure cancer. Curing cancer is not hard, just use nanites. It's expensive, but it's not hard. Proper, tiny little machines that can go in, be artificial white blood cells, and check your entire body against known database of all the things, just like a regular white blood cell can do. The only thing is, it has one extra tool. It has the ability to go in and do microsurgery and take those cancer cells and basically just turn them into something that can be digested by the liver or whatever and be shot out of you like a goddamn piss. DNA degradation is another thing that you could just totally control with nanotech because you would not need to worry about any kind of distortions with your DNA. So getting old would just stop. You could change yourself to have like no heart. I mean, it would solve. It's not just cancer. It's aging. It's heart disease. It's brain stuff. Arthritis. I don't know. Nanotech is the solution for everything. Pretty much everything. So the problem I have is I'm still trying to figure out time manipulation. And unfortunately, because I don't believe in the space-time curvature theory, which that's all it is, it's just a theory, a well-believed so much that they think it's a law of physics, and it's not. It's just a theory. It's not properly established. It's shaky at best, and well, in even in their circles, it's shaky at best. In my circles, it doesn't even exist. It just flat out does not exist. It's been disproven. It's useless to think about it. According to some beliefs, time works like a version of Mario. Everything in the future is being developed and going through its processes, and then everything in the past no longer is rendered, does not continue to exist. You can't go backwards anymore. You can only go forwards. So Also, if I haven't said it already in other videos that you've seen, in the chance that we are in a simulation, please understand the laws of physics in the simulation are not the laws of physics of the base world. You don't have to care how it could make sense for the laws of physics to work in the base world, because it easily could just be anything compared to what it is here. Imagine trying to explain to somebody who initialized in a dot matrix and then they end up inside. Their entire world could be expressed with just one block in Minecraft. And then you take that existence and you expand it outward to something big like Halo 3 or whatever. Something made in Unity 5 or whatever, or something. And then you take that, expand it upward again to here. Fucking stupid pictures. I don't even know how the fucking hand gesture bullshit works, and I don't like it. How do you turn that shit off? Anyway, point is, the fuck? The point is, the base universe doesn't have to have light moving at c. It could have light moving at 50 trillion times c. We don't need to care about these things because it's a fictitious universe that could simulate this one. So if this is a simulation, people can go through time, as long as the simulation holds all of what has existed. Everything that's happening now is happening now. So it doesn't exist a moment ago. Your understanding of what's happened is like, it takes a little bit for you to really reconcile in your brain what has taken place audibly, visually, sensely, sensually. And all of that, regardless, it doesn't matter about the light that has taken so much time to get to us. It has already started its journey. It is already moving, and we are only getting the frame in which all of the stuff that could reach us from there has already reached us, and all of that. There is no reason to believe that the past even is rendered. There's no reason to believe anything like that at all. Why the fuck? How did... At all. I don't know what the hell starts a video on this bullshit. That's why I don't like having it on video, because it'll freaking frick it up. I want it fricking it up. The point is, There is. Clear my It's saying my lens is dirty. Shut up. Look, I'm the type that is hoping that there is some kind of oh, that's neat. I'm the type that's hoping that there is some kind of yeah, that's fucking awesome. That there is some kind of way of at least transmitting signals from different times. But again, even that technology would only exist to be able to send signals to the receivers. The receivers are only made to receive the signals at that point. So anytime from then would be able to utilize them. So you can't just, have signals be from all of the future and get it all at once from a time before the signals were set up to be received. No, you can't use gravity waves. That's a horrible idea. Don't do that. Don't attempt using gravity waves in order to manipulate time and send signals into. What if I make it fully dark? Oh shit, that's dark. I'd rather have it stay bright, but it's like it resets all the time. Listen. If you want maybe there is an ability to transfer through space-time faster forward. Obviously, that's possible. Besides just going into some coma or whatever else and ending up on the other side and you're awake and you are now in the future. Good. Yay. Um, it's called cheating, first of all. Like, I try to think about it. I really do. And unfortunately, there just is not. I'm sorry if you wanted me to just mention at the end that there is a way. I don't have one for you. Like, I could keep working my head on it. Like, the whole teleporting thing or the ripping a hole through reality. That only works if you're able to go into some other reality, or, for example, shift your phase change into some other energy state, or, like I said, open up a portal to another time zone. Like, I'm sorry I don't have anything for you. Like, of course, there's always one type of thing they called tachyons, which was the original thing before warping space-time. And you have this connection to the past because those just simply are a natural phenomenon that flow backwards in time somehow. And you got to think of how would they do that? And then you got to think of, can you recreate that in a lab? And then you got to think about an emitter, and then you got to think about somehow connecting yourself to the tachyon so that you can transfer yourself through time or a signal. And no. So, I don't know. I don't have anything for you. I mean, there was the whole idea of aging backwards. There was Merlin's silly idea where he was able to manipulate his own time to stop, which does not work because he can still like move around, talk, and do things. So like he exists but doesn't exist in time. It's a ridiculous idea. Imagine actually trying to make a wormhole. Like the physical properties of a wormhole are great in simulations. They don't really work when you try to make a wormhole in reality because a wormhole in reality is just analogous to the space between three heavenly bodies. Basically, it's that if you were able to make somehow And the ideal scenario is that you're making some kind of tunnel that's like, okay, let's say that the three heavenly bodies are not round, and somehow like the edge the edge of each one like is just enough that when they press against each other, there's still a space in between, like the space between all three fingers, right? This is a wormhole, okay? That's the analogous, is that you would have these three heavenly bodies. They're big. They're right next to each other. They're not like able to collide with each other because it's like three big planets that have collided. It's not like stars where they'll actually like merge together and everything. It's like planets and they have some kind of equilibrium where they somehow have this like hole. That's what a wormhole is like in reality. And you don't travel any faster through the wormhole, right? But the essential way of making a wormhole in reality somehow, again, I don't suggest you do this, is, I mean, according to certain physicists, if you compress certain amounts of energy into a small enough space, you'll make a little black hole. And then if you make that big enough, it becomes self-sustaining and becomes a giant black hole. So if you make a giant laser, multi-spectrum, in the we don't we don't have words for these things. The yottawatt range, I don't know, some crazy amount of power per cubic meter or whatever. Yeah, you can just shoot that thing towards a spot. That concentrated spot of multiple of these would make a black hole, and it would sustain it for a certain amount of time. So you would make these black holes, and just one of them is really enough. You don't need multiple of them. But to make wormhole shape, you need three of them, minimum. But you don't need three of them, you just need one. So what you would do is you set up the thing, go on this side of the thing, you send the power to that spot, it expands, the force of it expanding pushes your ship at tremendous speed away. Hopefully, if you can hold yourself together, you can just zoom across. How big? I don't know. And then hopefully you're able to turn it off and it doesn't end up enveloping anything. Don't do this inside of a solar system, you dummy. Not a good idea. And not a nebula also. Try not to do that. Not good. You want your lasers to be the only thing powering this thing. The moment that you turn it off, the lasers, it's not going to just stop the black hole. You have made a black hole. So the answer, of course, is to make something that also can suck the energy out of the black hole somehow and then collapse them. This is not a very good idea. Now, the other thing is, if you want to come back, all you have to do is make the black hole, get on the outer edge of it, collapse the black hole. The suppose the gravity is going to pull you in, and maybe you're able to get close, and then you get on the other side of it, and then you expand it again, and then you're pushed all the way back home. I mean, that's one way to make wormholes happen. The problem is, or wormhole type effects. The problem with that whole device is that you need to do it in empty space and hope to God that the gravitational distortions won't fuck up everything in the area the size of a galaxy or a large super galaxy. I don't know how far you want to travel. And also, black holes that size, you're still not going to get very far. I mean, it's the size of a galaxy. You're going to want to go into interstellar travel and all that stuff. It's still not good enough. It's not preferred travel through space. Even that. And that's something we can do. That's something that's possible. Going through time? No. Make a black hole and then zoop through the world and the universe? Sure. Are you going to end up like on the other side of a galaxy? Possibly. Are you able to actually use that to travel in the galaxy? No. Are you able to travel safely through the galaxy? Definitely no. Or are you able to travel in large distances? No. But here's the thing, right? What if you could make a chain of these so that you go on one side, it goes big, you attach, goes small, you're in the middle, switch around, goes big again, you're on the other side, goes small, you leave it alone. You go to another one, it goes big, small, big, 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 and you keep on doing that thing for a while, and you're kind of going somewhere kind of fast, but it would mean having a grid of black holes that you can just expand and contract at will. This is a ridiculous idea. It's still the fastest way to get interstellar travel done. It's just not a very safe way for anyone nearby, and like you have to have a force field or some kind of radiation shielding, and that's not easy to do. It's possible, it's just not easy. Um, like if you build your ship with a big enough pool in front of it, you'll be fine. Good luck. Um, Look, the Vortex engine is only so good, and it can go faster than light. I'm just saying, making a black hole is something else entirely. But you're more likely to get stuck inside the damn thing, end up having it be fed by, I don't know, cosmic rays or some bullshit, and then you just have a black hole that you can shrink. So it's dangerous. Yeah, that's more realistic than time travel because we can actually do it now. That's something we can do right now. Like, no one's made a black hole because obviously no one wants to. And if they can, they would make a black hole that's just the size of like a little bitty proton. And even then, it would have the mass of like, I don't know, your mom's face. Um, it could be accurate. I don't know. And then you have like, the problem is they'll definitely just suck in everything in the area. So you gotta be careful about black holes. Yeah. Shielding isn't always gonna work. Um, that being said, if you could control the size of black holes or whatever else, if time curvature nonsense, it is nonsense. If that crap ever worked, okay, if you were able to actually bend space-time, you would need a, and even if you had black holes the size of supermassive black holes the size of what's in our galaxy, that's not enough to bend space-time, because we're already near it. And it's not bending shit. Galaxies the size of our galaxy aren't doing any time distortion nonsense. So I don't know, like, even close to the black hole, there's nothing happening. It's all conjecture. It's all assumptions. And it's just not real science. So we send a probe out there, heading towards the black hole, and we know that it's able to, that based on its signals and based on where it should have been when it sent each signal, blah, 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 all the math for distances that far, it's going to say something that we can calculate is either correct or going to be incorrect. And we know that clocks on satellites are incorrect. So you have to learn to compensate. Ironically, the weird thing is, people believe and understand that light is the same speed. No matter what speed, you would clock the light's speed as in its acceleration versus zero is the same for anyone else in any reference frame, any other speed. That's because it moves independently of any of you fuckers. It doesn't care. It moves versus its relationship to the electromagnetic field. It doesn't have any regards for you unless you're some other kind of fluid or substance that it's traveling through. It doesn't have to care. It through a vacuum is it through a vacuum, no matter how fast you're going. That's what people realized. Time dilation is a complete myth. There's people nowadays who are misunderstanding what that even meant. It means it doesn't matter if you're going near the speed of light, time's still going to move the same for you. Light doesn't change what it's doing. Because why would light make any difference? It's the same as if light is moving outside of the spaceship. Just because the spaceship starts moving faster doesn't mean light should be moving any faster. Why would it? If you consider light to be independent from your craft, because it is, Essentially, it is until it bumps into something, bounces off of something, refracts through something. It's not doing anything different, so it doesn't do anything different. So its motion is regular. Anywhere. People get that wrong all the time. It's like, why would it be any different for someone? So some people have twisted the ideas of that notion to say that, oh, the moment you start moving like near the speed of light, you'll still end up seeing it as moving the speed of light. So that if you were still, if you moving at this near the speed of light, consider yourself moving still, light would be moving the speed of light compared to you. In other words, its own speed would increase by your speed. It doesn't do that because it doesn't care about you. It's independent. Why don't people understand that basic statement? It'd be just a lot simpler to say light is independent compared to any other reference frame. It doesn't care how fast you're going. It will move at the speed of light. So knock it off with the time dilation nonsense. The only evidence of time dilation is satellite evidence, where everything is slowing down constantly, so it's constantly distorted. The amount of distance you're traveling over time. If it's slowing down, that means less and less distance over time. So if the distance is less and less, the ticks are faster and faster. So the clock will be moving faster and faster. It's an incorrect clock. You have to get over it. That's just the reality of the situation, Kyle. Bill. Dustin. Call Second 42. I don't care. Whoever's listening to this, Nile Red, Hank Green, Diana Physics Girl, all of you. And I'm missing so many of you, and I really don't care. The Silence Asylum. Dude, fast. I don't care. Light doesn't change its speed no matter what your speed is. That's what physics is supposed to have taught you, and you failed to learn. Failed to listen, failed to somehow interpret the words correctly. The relationship, the general way that light actually behaves. Because think about it, if time was moving different relative to a person, the faster you move through time and space, the faster you move through space, if that changes how the speed of light works, because you're supposedly manipulating time, then that means if you take it to the extreme, the clocks are going to just tick faster and faster and faster the faster you go. Even though for everyone else here, you'll be having, so the person in that craft will be aging faster and faster, and the person on Earth is aging slower. But the reality is your timepiece is inaccurate. So that's never going to happen. I don't care how fast you go. I don't care how close to a black hole you get. I don't care how much gravity you shove into anything. It's not going to do anything to the amount of time spent. We've tested metabolic processes. Metabolic processes under the force of increased gravity are different. You can use a centrifuge to figure that out. You're not warping space-time in a centrifuge. No, you're not. So again, I don't have a solution for time manipulation. I'm sorry. People say they made a wormhole in a laboratory. No, you made an energy straw. There's a difference. Essentially, the energy connections between a ring of particles versus another nearby ring of particles, and things happen to travel through smoothly, is the definition of a straw. It doesn't matter if there's air between it. It's not a wormhole. It's not a nano wormhole. No, that's freaking nonsense. Listen, it's the same thing as a carbon nanotube. The only difference is you end up with, like, you send something through this little ring, supposedly connected particles, and on the other side, the multiples of let's say they had 7 individual entangled particles, which are not a thing. Even if they were, what they said was they took these 7 independently made entangled particles, lined them up in such a way that particle A and particle B makes up one node of a ring, so that all 7 particles make up the other 6 of the 7 nodes. So on this side you have this ring, and on this side you have this ring, and some reason they were able to flow stuff from one ring to the other ring. That's just called magnetic confinement. That's just a straw. That's nothing. That's not a wormhole. So what are you trying to say? Like, if you, like, in order to make a wormhole real life of size, you would have to have, let's say, a ship-sized massive energy field. Stop! Why the fuck does that even happen? A ship-sized massive energy field and another massive energy field that somehow is connected to that ship. And then you have other ships, other spaceships that are nearby and on the sides of it. So it's similar to the size of a Stargate or whatever. And then somehow the energy flux in between all of those different points ends up making a region of space that can accelerate. And I'm here to tell you, it's not much different than making an energy. It's not much different than making an energy-based straw. But the thing about that is that it's a region of space that essentially you can empty the energies of all the surroundings area so that you have essentially completely void space in the area between. First of all, in order to do something like this, you need to have like extremely long towers or rods that would just go out in that entire distance to help guide this energy, because otherwise you're just putting out a ton of energy. Chances are it's not going to like stably connect, and then it won't stay connected for like any amount of distance. And then the question is, all of that power, so that you're able to make essentially empty space, so that when you travel through it, you're not traveling through any kind of cosmic radiation or dust or whatever else. Are you able to travel faster than light through this space? And the answer is you still are confined to everything that's happening inside the molecular structure of your ship. It doesn't matter if you're not hitting anything, technically. Your own mass is inertia that you're fighting against. So you're into, like, for example, if your body is made out of jello, you're just going to be on the back of the plate all the time. A smear. Hopefully you're not a human, because that's what you would end up with being like anyway. And we don't want to think about humans turning into smears. But let's say you make this energy tube, right? It's a region of empty space. Technically, you can make an entire large corridor of empty space, depending on how long it is, depending on how big it is, whatever you make it out of. Even if you made razor wire and assumed that that could hold the field, it's still a long thing. it's still something that even if there's nothing else to move it through space, the distortions of your ship as it's zooming past magnetically is going to be enough to crunch this thing in and of itself. So you have to make it of something stable, not just chain. It has to be like a solid structure. So it, again, in space, it really doesn't matter what you make it out of because gravity doesn't matter out in space as much because it's just the gravity of your own construction that would do anything and the ship that's moving through this construction. You can definitely use this to travel through a solar system, even. It's safe to do that. It's just a massive construction still. Now, the type of thing that I made was brilliant. Instead of a straw, I made a donut. And I made multiple layered donuts such that when you go through into the first layer, it's spinning at a certain RPM. And then as you go from transferring from the first layer to the second layer, the inner layer is going another X times faster. So once you're already used to the speed of the first layer ship ring, you can start going and accelerating to the next layer ship using the same amount of power that you used to accelerate to the first. Kind of crazy. It's still a solution for time, but I mean, it's still traveling faster, just kind of saving time. We're off topic. Whatever. Fine. I don't have an answer for you.